6:30, I'll call to order the City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 15th. Let's see, we'll have a roll call, please.
Counselor Safavi?
Here.
Counselor Wheel?
Glad to be here.
Counselor Brown?
Here.
Counselor Gallagher is absent. Counselor Sheldon?
Here.
Counselor Blum?
Here.
All right, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Audience participation, I'm guessing probably not. I'm sure everybody's at the Nuggets game. Thank you. And then reports from city commissioners and boards, seeing none. Consent agenda. Any items off or?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unfinished business, this was Council Bill 7, Series 2020, amending the municipal code relating to noise, nuisance, and construction times, and to correct a clerical error, and this is the second and final reading. City Manager.
For consistency's sakes, we are going to have the city attorney just bring us to the finish line on this.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Before you tonight is the second reading of this ordinance. This is moving really speedily. Council Bill 7, Series 2020, affecting the municipal code, as the mayor just recited in the title. This was approved on first reading at the last meeting with and there have been no changes. So what you see before you is exactly what you have approved in prior times. If you have any questions about how this operates, I'd be happy to answer them.
Councilor Blum?
I don't have any questions. I would like to ask if there's well, I guess it is a question. Is there a way for staff to get this word out about this newly written ordinance to our HOAs and our communities? Because I think that this new language, specifically number 2, in the middle of page 2 of our staff communication, where it talks about requiring commercial landscape operators to observe the day and time restrictions for outdoor activities from Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday 8 to 4. I think that's new language, right? And that is, I believe, pretty important language. I know many people in my neighborhood are cutting their grass at 8:30 at night all summer long, and I'm not talking about themselves with their lawnmowers. I'm talking about the commercial operators. This would now prohibit that. I think we need to communicate this new ordinance to our communities somehow, and I'll leave that to staff to figure out how to communicate that, but this is going to be important because we're going to start getting calls and people are going to be like, I didn't know I couldn't do it, after sundown or, at sundown to go do this. So that's my only comment.
Okay, good comment. Councilor Brown?
Nope.
Councilor Wheel?
Did have one question on the decibel readings, the decibel thresholds. It matters how far or near you are to the particular piece of equipment you're measuring. Is there a definition that, that talks about how that's measured?
I think there's in the code about on the property line, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so it's got to be measured at the property line. Okay.
And that's fairly typical of these types of nuisance ordinances.
Yep, okay, excellent. That takes care of my questions. Thanks.
Councilor Safavi?
No questions.
All right, I think the comment is very good about getting the word out to the companies too. I don't know if there's a mailing list for the commercial landscapers or anything. It would be almost nice to have. I don't know, but yeah, if you guys can work on that, staff.
We will, and I would like to echo that I actually think it would be important to do it in the spring as well via social media and some direct communication to HOAs, because that's when they'll really start gearing up. And so we'll try and hit it both times, now and then again in the spring.
Okay. Entertain a motion?
I move to approve Council Bill 7, Series 2020, amending Section 7130, Section 7140, and Section 181160 of the Municipal Code relating to noise, nuisance, and construction times, and amending Section 7310 to correct a clerical error on second and final reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
This is effective immediately upon passage, right?
No,
No.
has to be published.
Publication in
Oh.
10 days after.
So a couple weeks? Thank you. No, nothing else.
No other comments, and we'll take a roll call, please.
Counselor Safavi?
Yes.
Counselor Wheel?
Yes.
Counselor Brown?
Yes?
Counselor Sheldon?
Yes.
Counselor Blum?
Yes.
Okay, that passes unanimously. We'll move on to reports. Since I understand there's some kind of a basketball game on tonight, I will be quick. I did attend the Metro Mayor's Caucus meeting, a lot of discussion about Gallagher, but mostly about the opioid settlement, about how that's going to come down. There's quite a conflict, well, not quite a conflict. There is disagreement between the state and the municipalities about how that money is going to be shared. So it'll affect our county, not as much as our city. Last Wednesday, I hosted the mayor's lunch at our Pino's. City Cheerios Village hosted it. It was good. We were the only ones there from 11:30 until 12:30 or 1. So, but they're all the mayors are hale and hearty. That Thursday, I attended a budget committee for CML. One thing that we get a rebate from CML at the end of the year. Is kind of a funky thing. We've recommended that be eliminated. It's too confusing. People don't know why we do that. It's really because we can't give it to you at the beginning because of our bylaws. So anyway, we're trying to do that. We're also freezing the dues for CML. So we'll freeze the dues, but we're going to end that in that kind of that rebate. So that's the proposal anyway. Today I was on the COVID meeting with their metrics and people. I don't know if you were on that, city manager too, about real concern about the schools, which came out tonight too. I mean, that's really, the hospitals are not an issue right now. The levels are so low. The real concern is keeping the infection down. For John Douglas, is keeping the infection down so the schools can operate and figuring out how the schools can operate safely. Today I met with Cherrydale HOA, talking about updating them on where we are with Quincy Farm, and so brought them up to speed on what council discussed at our last meeting. So they're kind of up to speed, and they're very supportive when they heard the ideas and what may happen with that property. And then we're still, I don't know if the city manager want to talk about Crown Castle. I've kind of dropped that about where if we could meet with Crown Castle or setting a meeting with them. So that's my report. Councilor Blum.
A couple things. I want to give kudos to Jessica again on this budget, which she sent out tonight, and I guess we'll be discussing at the next meeting. One of the things that came up out of our discussion was I think there's several potential items of revenue that we need to look at over the course of the next year, because if we're going to put it to a vote, it would be, I think, November 2022. And it's something, if you look at the long-term budget, I think it's something we really need to address and probably ought to set up a couple of study sessions on it, because I think it's very important going forward. So that's really all I had, but I think Jessica did another outstanding job when you guys get that.
No report.
Ms. Brown.
I just wanted to quickly report, in case people don't know, that there will be ballot initiatives from Cherry Creek School District on the ballot in November. And so I would just invite everyone to educate yourself and familiarize yourself with those to make your own choices, but so that we know those will be there, 4A and 4B.
No report.
No report.
And thank you, Councilor Brown, for mentioning that, because Scott did call me too and ask, and I want to tell council that they're looking for endorsements to it, and I said, council, we ordinarily don't endorse ballot issues as a council, but certainly individuals, they're welcome to do it, individually, and so he explained, where they were in 4A and 4B and what it means to them. So that he's reaching out into the community and all of the school, all of the cities. Aurora mostly, Aurora and us and Greenwood Village and Centennial, for that ballot initiative.
I think the most important thing, we probably know this, I don't know if the general public realizes that, it's the entire district, whether you have children in the school or not, that votes on those types of issues. And so obviously it's easy for them to communicate with parents in the schools. It's a lot harder to get that message out to people who may not currently have children in the schools. So, and not taking any information one way or another, just saying it's coming and be aware.
And the school district is actually built out. It's interesting. There are no more high schools, I mean, that we built. There may be possibly another elementary school, maybe a middle school. He said, maybe, but way out there. So, but basically, this is for, they've never debruced. So, you know, they have to vote on everything, and that's been the history, and they've always passed all of these. But they, you know, they have to go to the voters every time. So. City Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As a follow-up to this conversation about Crown Castle and I assume you were referring to the overall cell phone coverage issues that we're having in the community. What Councilor Blum and I talked about was not knowing what might happen with the Quincy Farm and the potential expenditure side of that with the farm. We might let that play itself out a little bit before we dove too deep into aggressive conversations with the providers. So that's on our radar still, but we weren't necessarily going to schedule that just quite yet.
I'm not sure I see the linkage, Chris.
Well, because initial analysis that we've done shows that for us to, based on what other communities have done, specifically Centennial, I believe, you know, they spent around $5 million to put in a fiber backbone, and so far it hasn't resulted in a single new tower. So at any case, it seems like there's going to be a pretty large capital investment of some kind, or at least an incentive package of some kind to really have any movement. And given our current budget situation, it's going to be challenging.
Chris, I think it'd be worth proceeding down the road for a little bit, because I think Randy and I would both like to learn and see what's happened in the past and what some of these other communities done. So maybe you, myself, Randy, and you can get together and discuss that before we figure out where we go. If you look at the budget, I mean, there's a lot of issues that we need to deal with, specifically relating to the Quincy Farm that may or may not affect us. But I think it'd be worth the education for both Randy and I to meet with you and discuss it and see what's happened in the past.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and
I don't think we're in a position of understanding to even be thinking about whether it's capital or incentives or what, but I think doing the groundwork and understanding, and to some degree being educated by the carriers, the tower owners really, and to some degree the carriers as well play a part. So yeah, I think I'd like to keep it moving.
okay, sounds good. Also, be prepared next month. I will have a more thorough report for you, but I believe I've mentioned this before that we had an event this past week on the canal, and it went fine for the most part. It was a really small event, only 22 participants. However, it did highlight for staff some challenges that we have with social distancing, coordination, and I'm sure council has continued to receive the feedback regarding the traffic on the canal. So we are going to be looking into ways that we can temporarily suspend permitted activities on the canal. So look for that report from me next month. And that's all I have, and I will see if any directors have any updates as well.
You said permitted activities. Do you mean general activities or event?
Events that
Events,
require
yes,
a
okay.
permit.
Like, we're not going
Yes.
to tell people they can't
Not
ride a bike
allowed
on the trail,
activities.
right?
Yes,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah, no. Okay.
Yeah, events that require a permit.
Just real quickly, the Dahlia Hollow Bridge will be closed temporarily. We had a large cottonwood fall on it tonight. Both handrails have been removed by that tree. We'll be meeting with our structural engineer tomorrow after we get the tree off. Hopefully we can get that reopened. I just wanted to let you know that because you may be receiving calls from your constituents. We will get that open as soon as we can safely. Dahlia Hollow, right there at Dahlia and Oxford, that crosses the High Line.
Jessica?
I just want to thank Councilor Blum for meeting with me last week and going over the entire budget. So he was here at the city for a little bit of time to do that. And as he mentioned, it's on the dais tonight. We'll be reviewing it in depth during the study session at the next meeting on October 6th. So Unfortunately, this year, due to COVID, there are more unknowns than we typically have at this time, so we might have, just ask for your patience as we work through the study session and then probably the first reading, the changes that'll happen between that timeframe.
Emily?
I have no report.
Thank you for the tour, Emily. Appreciate that. Mander? All right. Thank you, everybody. We motion to adjourn. It's at
I move to adjourn.
6:45. I think that's unanimous without objection. Without objection, right?